Hey Adventurers, I'm Tony, this is Kate, and this is our wrap-up for the month of July.
So I have quite a few books number-wise this month, but that's because I read some comic books and those are really fast to get through, and I also listened to a couple audiobooks, so we'll jump right in. Okay, not in the order I read them, but I read The Mist by Stephen King, and I really enjoyed this one. I didn't like it as much as I enjoyed Carrie, but I think I really like Stephen King's writing style. So I think Mist could have been a little bit stronger in theme. I really liked it was left open-ended, which was really fun. I like open-ended stories. So yeah, that was my first read. So the next book I read was Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Once again, I've started a book by Neil Gaiman, and that particular one I decided not to finish at the time. I might try it again. But I really like Neil Gaiman's writing style. I liked the book overall. The way he created a fantasy world was really, really good, and he tied in all the different elements, and it wasn't a weak fantasy world. Like, he actually put effort into it and created species and cultures, and it was so cool to see that. But it was also, I think it was technically low fantasy because it was set, he gave us a historical reference within our history, and there was like London was a place and Paris, France, but we never saw any of those. We weren't in that type. We were in fairy, actually. So that was really cool. There was some more adult content in Stardust, which I wasn't expecting because I don't look up and research my books before I start reading them. So that was a little awkward, but I got through it and I did overall and really enjoy the book.
The first audiobook so I only read 3 books. I only finished 3 books this month, and all of them were on audiobook. So the first one that I listened to was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I believe. Yeah. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is the second book chronologically in the Chronicles of Narnia series, but it's the first book in the series that he wrote. So this is the first, third time I think that I've reread this series, and it's very enjoyable. There's a lot of really good things to it. I think I enjoyed it, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the most this time. It's very different from things like Lord of the Rings or Mistborn or any of those other big massive fantasy series, but it's not supposed to be the same style of thing, and so I've learned that I can't compare the different series, but I do respect a lot of what Lewis did in that series, even if it's not my favorite, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe has never really been my favorite of the Chronicles of Narnia, but I do enjoy it a lot, and I love the atmosphere of the series.
So I also listened to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe this month, and it's the second time I've reread Narnia, the Narnia Chronicles, and I did really like it. I think that might be my favorite of the books I've gotten to so far. Don't really have a lot of thoughts on it though. And another book I started this month is The Last Bookshop in London by Madeline Martin, and I picked this up at the thrift store. I was pretty excited because it's historical fiction set during World War II. It sounded like the character was going to be stepping into a new bit of culture, which is a great way for the readers to get information without it seeming like an info dump as the character learns things. So I was pretty excited about it. The very first page, I struggled with a sentence, like it didn't compute in my mind, and I was like, oh boy, this is a great setup. And sure enough, I'm not even halfway through it, and I'm DNFing this book because I can't bring myself to finish it. There's not a stake that's pulling me in that I'm actually invested in. There's not a slow burn romance that just appears out of nowhere, which is honestly, it's kind of expected for this specific style of historical fiction, but I was just disappointed in how it was brought about. And I am hesitant to DNF books because so many times you get to the last quarter of a book and you're like, okay, it redeemed itself, you know, it was okay, that last quarter was really good, but I just don't have, why waste time reading a book that's only going to be good for the last quarter? So I'm DNFing The Last Bookshop in London, unfortunately. So the other book I read or listened to an audiobook was The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis, one of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia series. And I think I got more out of it than I did the first time I read it. It's still not my favorite book, but I did like a lot of aspects of it. I really liked the different cultures we saw in Narnia.
So this is also the second audiobook that I finished, and it is actually one of my favorites, largely having to do with the different cultures that we see. The more I am reading, the more I'm finding about my reading tastes and stuff like that, the more I'm seeing that when you can include a well-developed culture, even if it's based on a culture from our own world, when you can include a different culture and a different language, a different whole completely other type of living, I'm more able to get invested in a story and the characters, and it's very interesting because you see the stark contrast between the culture that the characters are coming from and the culture that they're going to, and it's very different from any of the other Narnia books, largely due to the fact that it's set completely in another world, and there's no going to Earth in this one. And so I really love that aspect of the story. It's also just one of the most interesting and compelling stories, in my opinion, of the Chronicles of Narnia.
So another book I read in July is The Thing About Jellyfish by Ali Benjamin. And I don't think I talked about this last time, but I really enjoyed this. It's a middle grade. I loved how it was written. There were some themes in here which are actually untrue, but I realize that that is my opinion, even if my opinion is based on factual things. But overall, the story was really, really good, and I loved reading it. I loved it from cover to cover, I really did. It's about a little girl who loses her best friend dies, and she's trying to figure out how to cope with that. And I thought it was a really great depiction of grief and how different people deal with it, and I loved seeing it from a child's perspective. So the last book I listened to this month was Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. So we're moving right along through the Chronicles of Narnia, and it's really fun because they're only typically not longer than 6 hours of listening time, and we both listen to them on double speed or more, so you get through them super, super fast, which is great to, 2 days, you're like, wow, finished a book in 2 days, this is great. So we made a lot of progress in that, I think, and I loved the first half of Prince Caspian. The second half, I got a little bored and I got a little annoyed with one of the tropes, but it was still enjoyable overall, partly because it went by so quickly.
Yeah, and like Kate mentioned, Prince Caspian would be the third audiobook that I listened to and the last audiobook that I finished in the month of July. This one was never my favorite. I enjoyed it a lot. There's a lot of great things about it, and I enjoyed it most this time of all the times that I've read it. So I guess that's a common theme with all of these books, is each reread they get better and better. But I don't know exactly why I don't love Prince Caspian as much as I could. There's a lot of things about it that I do love, and there's a lot of things about it that I should love more than I do. So I'm not entirely sure, but it's good. It's okay.
So the next couple books I read were comic books, and I got them from my local library, and I've already returned them, so I took photos of the covers, which is what you'll see on the screen here. So yeah, I read Justice League Volume 1 Origin by Jeff Johns, and I remember liking certain aspects of it. I didn't think it was great. It wasn't super memorable. So that was the first one I read. I also read The Flash by Jeff Johns Volume 3, or Book 3. I have Book 2 in my bookshelf, and I'm working my way through them. I also read Book 4 this month. I just finished that one, and I really do like The Flash by Jeff Johns. I really like him. My library doesn't have the first one in this series, which I'm kind of bummed about. And I'm gonna check some of the surrounding libraries and see if I can get my hands on it. Otherwise I might buy it because I do like them enough. I think I wouldn't mind owning them. And it has I think the first volume has stuff about Impulse in it. It has more of the origin of Impulse besides the summaries we get before these books, so I want to read that. I also read Superman Day of Doom by Dan Jurgens and Bill. You'll see it on the screen here. I don't want to try that. And that one was okay. I haven't actually read a whole lot of Superman growing up, but I haven't read any since he's been married and has a kid, so that was kind of fun to see him as a dad as well, so that was neat. I also read DC Universe Rebirth Superman Action Comics Volume 1 Path of Doom. I'm trying to find a specific Superman comic that I started reading online. I still have access to, but it's just inconvenient to have it online and to not be able to bookmark my place. So I was trying to find the comic and I didn't. Neither of these are the ones I was going for, but they were kind of fun. And I also started Spider-Man Amazing Fantasy Volume 1. This is the very, very first Spider-Mans. And this was really fun because I just watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans 1 and 2, and I didn't realize that they actually take the same origin. Like, I was very impressed. I didn't know they were going to take the same origin from the comics in the Tobey Maguire films. So that was kind of fun. I'm only about halfway through this, and I'm probably going to return it to the library before I finish it. I've read it before, so I'm not super intrigued, and it's the older their comics are, the less I find that they're appealing in a story type of setting. I like them for the characters mostly, and some of them do have good stories, and some of them have really good themes. So that's fun. But I'll probably return this to the library before I get to finish it, so that's that. But I read the first couple comics in this volume, so that was fun.
I think that's all that we've got for July. I actually did have a fairly good reading month. I completed 3 stories and got halfway through 3 more actually, because started the next audiobook. But I had a good reading month, but I didn't finish that many, and I didn't have a ton of time to read, so I'm happy with my progress. I suspect Kate is as well. She had far better reading month than I did, looks at least
Well,
from
I
numbers.
actually read good books, which is really refreshing. I hate when I get stuck on a book that's just not great, which is why I DNF'd the last bookshop and just shop in London, because there was no reason for me to push through that.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias in the description down below. Same stuff as always. Thanks for watching. Stay well.